If you're sitting here watching this stream today, you cannot underestimate how ahead of the curve you are right now.
Bitcoin looks tired. All coins look hungry.
I'm just not quite sure that Bitcoin has any more solves.
I still think this thing is really worth a lot more than it is.
This stuff's spooky, man. These chaos PRZs are intense.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Solana is highly performant and has the team with the experience to support it.
$4,800 Ethereum. That's a big, big move here.
Whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to DeltaFi on Hxro Labs. I will be your host along with Roberto Levy, Rob Levy, co-founder of Hxro. Hxro what? What are you guys going by these days? Hxro baby. Okay. Hxro Games. I don't know.
Hxro Labs. Hxro
Network. It's the founder. He's just the guy. Mr. DeSo himself coming in hot with pretty much, you know, one of the nicest trades you could find in this bear in the last little bit. And he was all over it, and I'm really proud of you and impressed. And in true form, I am loading the dip here. So that's what I've been watching during this pullback.
Yeah.
How you been?
What do they say in White Men Can't Jump? The sun shines on a dog's ass someday. Everybody can win the lottery or anyone.
They say that all the time.
That was dude. That was a movie. I'm outdating you. That was a movie. Early
1994.
90s? Yeah, right in my wheelhouse. I was a freshman in high school, maybe.
I was alive, but I was like 7. So
yeah, that was a funny movie to me. Yeah, that little setup was a lucky one just from watching. But I'll tell you what, like right now in these markets, it's like the inmates are running the asylum. It is illiquid, and there's good trading opportunities. You know, I have not been super active in it. I'm busy working. We're building, but I'll tell you what, these markets are tradable. Like you can tell people are getting turned around every which way. It's
hard.
Yeah.
And if you guys are watching right now and you're like, man, you know, trading sucks. This is hard. This is not a good time to trade. It's a bad time. It's a bad time to be a trader unless you are super advanced or you have a setup that works really well in Crab, or you're super disciplined. Like, you got to be on your game. And I'll say that from a position of not really being on my game over the last really like 4 months. If you zoom out, and I've had some good moments, some bad moments, but ultimately it's a lot of the same repetitive mistakes. So if you guys are watching this and you're like, well, man, it's hard out here. I get it. I feel you. And the thing that keeps you alive, the thing that keeps you going is managing risk. So thankfully, a couple of months ago, recognizing that this was going to be a shitty time to trade, I put aside a small percentage, maybe 1% of my overall shit, and that's what I've been trading with. So I can trade like shit, and it's not really affecting me. Saving the good stuff, the size for easy mode, whenever that is.
Yep.
That's the one thing I can say I did that has worked really well this year. Today's CPI print, let's put some color on it. We've got this like DeSo idea. Obviously, I've got my dippies set here. Did bid like the 15 area just out of FOMO. It's a pump chaser zone, whatever. I just think odds on that this is going to be the bottom. I think it is. So how greasy I get with this dip, I'm comfortable like repositioning. I also saw when I went to blockchain exchange or blockchain.com or whatever, I saw my sells from like way back at 100. So now it just feels like 12, 15, 20, like it's all the same. It feels like a good short. Closing it out, reopening the long. So DeSo. But let's go CPI. What do you make of this inverse Bart Simpson?
No, this was an interesting one. At this point, it looks like a bear trap. I mean, it looks like a savage bear trap, but it was definitely an interesting morning. Like, you know, when you've been a trader for years and years and years, or market maker, you're used to kind of waking up and first thing you look at is like my prices, right? It's like a trading view watch list. And it was interesting. So I was, my watch list that was open when I first pulled it up was like my alt USD watch list. And I'm just seeing blood, like just stuff across the board was down like 8%. And I was like, shit, like 8% is a little aggressive on a bunch of these alts that have kind of not been doing much. Like must have seen some real kind of selling. And I was like, I wonder what the SPOs are down. What's the S&P futures down? What are NASDAQ futures down? And then so I go into my other macro list, and like the SPOs were up 30 handles, which is almost 1%. The NASDAQ was up, like the Dow futures were up 300. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like who's deciding today to dump all their crypto and like even in the face of like what was just overnight strength in US equities. And so it was a little, it just didn't feel, it just felt off to me. I don't know if it was someone who got liquidated or someone like, the Alamedas of the world or the big people who are kind of running the markets. Like if they decided, okay, let's sell and see if it shakes out any other sellers. Let's see what this market's about, or if someone tries to, bid it, and no one did clearly. But, this bounce back after the number, which was hot, the market doesn't know what to do. What is, it's a little hotter than expectation. So it's the headline number's 8.2% inflation. It was expected 8.1. You got, little bits of, no one.
We missed expectations.
Yeah, and what does that
crazy.
even mean? Like,
yeah,
so
I don't know. Nobody knows. I don't even think Jerome Powell knows.
Oh,
he's just like, tell him 8.2. Fuck off. I got busy shit to do.
No, but it doesn't. It really doesn't matter. You have to, you got to see what other people are doing. The flow is driving it. So all of a sudden, on the knee jerk, like everything sells off at the 8:30 a.m. Eastern time print, and then guess what? They bought it up. So
yeah, it chilled there for about it was about 2 hours down there. And your classic sort of like, it's a breakout, no, it's a fake out, wah, 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 wah. And now the move. So I'm inclined to be not on a midterm bull, but like a 2-week bull here. I feel like if we had to pick a direction, I would probably pick up here. But that's like broken record shit, right? I've been picking up for the last 6 months. Eventually I'll be right.
A lot of us have. I mean, because a lot of us are we're so just long-term, like believers. But like the bottom line is someone decided that it should underperform by like 3% this morning. Like crypto, like Bitcoin should be down 2 to 3% with equities, before the number should be up 1%. Like, I don't know who made that decision out there, who sold, if funds had redemptions or whatever, but that was a decision somebody made overnight. I'm fading that decision. I'm not a believer in that.
You think crypto should be on par or outperforming here?
I think it's going to outperform, but
you're right. You can see here purple and green for anyone watching. Purple and green is Bitcoin and ETH. So they did dump harder. They have lagged on this bounce.
Mm-hmm.
I put this up today because I wanted to see some comparisons, a closer look.
Yeah. No, I mean, they sold it, and I'm guessing it was in the derivatives. Yeah. I'm guessing it was in the derivatives. But bottom line, like the big question, the big question for us, I mean, just at the headline is, will sub 20,000 Bitcoin buys be the area of value that we all should have taken advantage of? That's what we're going to be looking back. Like, to me, that's the big question. You're seeing that, sub 20,000, you are seeing demand for Bitcoin, and from a lot of people who missed the whole kind of run, everything above the previous 2017 all-time high of close to 20,000. Everyone who missed that, and who said, you know what, I missed it, I'm going to wait. Everyone who said that, they got their sub 20,000 Bitcoin. We're going to see what the demand is like here. And that doesn't mean that we don't spike down to 12 at some point or whatever. But in the end, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road, when I think Bitcoin's going to be a lot higher, like was this sub 20,000 area, this we should have known all
the
along.
juiciest buy in Bitcoin history. I mean, it's the first time that it has gone into a bear market post, billionaire endorsements, post nationalist endorsements, right? You've got countries and billionaires and funds and banks basically all buying into this, fundamentally building out their products. What was the one yesterday? Big bank, something Mellon.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly it's the biggest bank ever. No one's ever heard of it, but it's the something Mellon, and they're now able, I think in New York or something, to offer.
Yeah,
custody.
it's in New York. Yeah.
Yeah. So Carnegie Mellon, I don't know. Carnegie Mellon, I don't know.
It probably comes from them.
It's one of those melons. Anyways, 2017, the last bear market, 2018, 2019, none of that was happening. I mean, you could get quiet little hints. Maybe the CME futures were live. There was some interest, but this is the first 70, going on 80% maybe, drawdown that we've had kind of in this world where it's probably going to be a thing. So I'm with you, dude. Look, this is something I pulled up earlier. This is just like the Hxro template kind of chart. So I pull it up once in a while to make a new chart. And I did that this morning, and I noticed on here, I was like, holy shit, it looks like I put a squiggly on this. I went back to the episode, and it was just me like shit posting while you guys were chatting. But look at it. Now I got to play it. I'm like, well, it's not bad so far. Up from here.
Yeah.
So this is the best thing I got today, is that there was a squiggly, and this was kind of that rounding, low volatility bottoming that we were discussing that day. But I'm with you. I mean, I would not be shocked. In fact, I think it's probable. I feel it in my bones that that we need that sort of like sub 6K equivalent dump, whatever that's going to look like. One final shakeout. I mean, I could speculate all night. I don't think it can happen easy. I don't think it's 12.5K and everybody who's been waiting here buys the dip and it's all a happy story. Like, something's got to give. It's going to be weird. Something's going to get weird. Either it doesn't break these lows ever, or it breaks them worse than everyone thought, or it goes to 16 and then moves. Like, if it goes to 12,500, chills for a month or two, and then comes back and rallies, I'll be shocked. Let's just put it that way. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, what are we doing? I've got a certain amount of Bitcoin I've picked up in the 19,000 area. I'm just not selling it. It's off exchange. It's like, hidden in a pile of dirt. Other than that, just accumulating some like narrative plays. I really like DeSo. I really think, social on the blockchain is a possible sector rally, and that's probably the strongest one of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it for me as far as like new spicy ideas. Otherwise, I'm just like prematurely harvesting tax losses and just being bored. Playing a new NHL game that just came out.
Is there a new NHL game?
There's a new NHL game. Yeah, just roasted somebody actually before the stream. Post CPI and then pre-stream, I went and played a game. The pre-release just came out yesterday, and it's very fun.
It's dope.
I
think that I think there's going to be opportunities for a lot of different names. I think that there are spots in this market where there's going to be price action. So
there will be. I mean, Aptos is going to have an adoption rally. Well, I don't know about adoption rally, but like probably going to have some post, Sui and Aptos. Everyone's like new the next Solana rally. Like, what is your take? I mean, I kind of know your take, but like share with us again. Solana, AVAX, ETH, next cycle. Are they bored? Neo development cycle. They just don't do much, or do you have real conviction that we get like an L1 continuation? Hearing mixed results or mixed opinions.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's $1 billion. That's a way multi-billion-dollar question.
It's a trillion market.
I feel really good about the building that I am seeing in Solana. That's really the only one that I can speak to personally. I feel really good about it. I think that this thing is going to grow, and the amount of network value that's going to be created in Solana is that we've seen nothing yet, really. I think the same thing will happen with a bunch of L1s. I don't know, man. I still believe that a lot of the L1s are going to outperform Bitcoin on the next leg higher. So, and I'm a major Bitcoin bull, like a major one.
So you're a Bitcoin dominance down-er. You think these lows break? I mean, I think it's a really weird world to live in where 41% is, just one crypto, but
I don't think we can properly price the potential network value of like all these different applications and all the different innovative stuff that's going to be built on these layer ones. So I think in terms of dominance, over time, it's going to have, probably a downward trend. Is it going to be like, but doesn't mean that Bitcoin's still not going to go to $1 million in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. But the amount of value that's going to be created on these other networks, I believe, is just enormous. Like we can't fathom it yet. It's
hard to value. I mean, it's the first of its kind, right? So you've got stocks in one market at one exchange in one country valued at $1 trillion. And now you've got like a network of projects globally.
Yep.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And that's the asymmetric bet. That's why we sit here and torture ourselves every day with 24/7 markets that are more volatile than anything that's ever traded before ever. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
It's, and I guess that's why I went into trading. That's why I went from like, I'm just going to buy this and hold it to like, hey, let me get in, let me get out. Let me get in when things are looking bleak with some potential upside. Let me get out when things are looking euphoric and impossible. That's what I strive for, because I don't know, like it's hard right now to say, well, next cycle, what do you think? It's like, well, we'll fucking find out. We'll see where the buy volume is. We'll see where the breakouts are. We'll start buying those. There's not a whole lot of seed planting I'm doing right now. A couple of VC investments, a couple of infrastructure ones, and then like some DeSo. I've been buying a little DeSo. Nothing crazy. Like half a Bitcoin worth. Bitcoin worth.
Yeah, the DeSo thing, it's such a kind of, got a lot of heat out of the gate with how they did the launch, and it was BitCloud and it's DeSo. But like, if I'm seeing more and more of him and his tweeting and blogging and posting, and he's a smart guy, right? He's a smart guy. He's I think they do ship code over there, which is important. I think that decentralized, that they're very well funded. They're funded by some top names. I mean, but being well funded, watching DeSo trade on Coinbase over the last year, you couldn't tell they had any support at all. It literally went from raising $250 million from like people jumping over themselves to all of a sudden it's trading $6, which is like a $60 million fully diluted market cap. And like you're sitting there looking like, wow, that kind of looks like, I mean, everyone calls shit scams. You're like, holy shit, 250 million,
Well, that's what the knock was that all these big name VCs came in at bottom dollar, and then this was their dump fest, and they're actually not even backing anymore. They're just out. Possible. I don't know.
We don't know. The one thing about it is hard to say, and it's also not that easy to track on the DeSo blockchain. Like the tools there, it's not like going into kind of Etherscan and you can really sleuth around on a really well designed block explorer. I don't know how easy it is to track like DeSo tokens and even if people just all moved it to Coinbase, all the all the VCs and stuff. I haven't surely done the sleuthing on the chain. I'm sure somebody.
I poked around on it last year. It was very unfriendly UI. It's probably a lot better now, but the Explorer was like really tough to read back when it first came out, as they are. Solana still sends me for a loop too. I'll tell you this, but very cliche to say, but for all those dumpers, somebody was buying. Somebody has put that floor in, and some big breakouts. So out with the old, in with the new. I just really like the narrative. I think it can really take off. That's it. And the user growth.
I'll tell you that. The narrative. Well, that's what he's pointing out now. They had a MetaMask integration, which brought all the, like, they're doing a multi-chain social layer thing, which bottom line is this is unsolved. This social layer. We see what goes on with Twitter. We see what goes on with, like, the deplatforming of people. Like, decentralized social is a narrative that I do, like you, I believe as a headline narrative, without a doubt, that is going to get bigger and it's going to get a lot of attention. And, people who can solve that and add value to that universe are going to make money. Like, if you're coming up with real solutions there that make that experience better for social on different levels, you are going to build some value. So I'm with you on the narrative. Well,
look at these chain
at how
stats.
the thing.
Have you seen this?
Let me see.
I'd love to zoom out on this. We could check out Open Prosper. Apparently, this is the DeSo daily active user count.
Yeah, I have seen it.
Okay.
This one. Yeah. No, I mean, listen, when there's a token or a network or a project you've been following, right? And then they start putting out stats, but more importantly, you start watching, like, what the market's doing. And sure, I think it overshot on the downside, but when you start seeing something like 4x from the bottom on, like, real volume, like, you have to look what the fuck's going on there. What is, how real is it? And then you start looking at the roadmap that they just put out and the stuff that they're shipping, and then you're like, okay, that makes sense. I wish I would have, kind of been in the mix and in the part of the community to know all this shit when it was $6. So I really could have,
loaded a little extra. Yeah, I'm buying half, maybe a third the amount I might have for the few shekels I'm spending on it. But I also remember, my initial buy was 50. My sell's, 100, 150. So this is all discount town on the macro level, like the higher time frame level. That's how I look at it. Now, really, really hard pressed to believe that, short of a catastrophic shift in what's going on over there, that this puke out capitulation, bull div, high time frame, and then this breakout on weekly, like, really hard pressed to believe that we see another set of lows here. And that's kind of my thesis is, like, fuck it, I'm just going to buy some. I would like to wait and get a little more greedy down here, but we'll see.
I will tell you, in terms of liquidity, there is a lot to be desired there. So,
not a lot of liquidity, in other words.
Well, exactly. You watch that Coinbase order book, or that's the one I watch. I know it trades on blockchain.com exchange too, but Coinbase is the main liquidity pool there. It's got one, maybe two market makers in there, like, steadily, maybe one, but it just gaps on both sides. Like, for the first several months, they wouldn't even take market orders. They added market orders like a few months ago because it was like not thick enough. So that, it could go anywhere, this thing. It's
more listings.
Illiquid and
like Coinbase is not a bad listing. It's a strong listing, but it leaves a lot to be desired for market makers, arbitrageurs, the guys who want to hold the books up, getting a Binance listing, getting an FTX listing, Huobi, whatever. Huobi just got bought out. I don't know what they're doing, but those I think would help thicken things up a little, obviously. But for now, it's also just a low float, right? We looked at that.
But I will tell you, I was just going to say it's a low float because it's got 10.8 million total supply, right? But it's all out there. Like,
sorry, not a low float. That's not the right word.
It's
just not a lot in the trading. I feel like a lot of it's on chain.
Exactly. A lot is, and that's a mechanism though. Like, they've got this DAO platform for DAOs that kind of, up until this point, it kind of locks up DeSo in it. Creator coins, I think they've got a version 2, or they got something that's kind of coming, but the creator coin idea is kind of like it locks up DeSo there too. But the one thing that I found really kind of interesting in one of their, just by doing research, Nader, I think, mentioned that they're gonna do a token split to get more tokens out there, and it's just a numerical thing. So if there's 10.8 million, let's say they split it 1,000 to 1, so now there's 10.8 billion tokens. Now the thing is, instead of $15, it's like 1.5 cents. And
are they talking about that?
Yeah, I think they're going to do it. You get this unit bias thing then, and then it's like, people they want to own 10,000 of something when it's 1.5 cents, rather than like the equivalent number if it's trading $15. It's like this unit bias. So I saw that.
It works.
I mean, that to me was an interesting little blurb in their in the roadmap. But I know we've spent a lot of time on this thing, but I think what this shows us, this one token, this one trade, is that in the last 3 weeks or last month, the market has been absolute dog shit, and it's been a chop fest, and there's nothing, and we all want to sit around and but there are little plays out there. If you're digging and you're in there, you can find stuff that you actually can find some alpha and some things to trade, even when it seems like everything is complete dog shit. So
yeah, well, and I agree. It's like, and that's kind of going back to it's not easy mode. Not everything's just going up. I think a lot of people are used to hey, there's a breakout in a rally, I can just long it, and then it gets shit on, and that's kind of the nature of the crab, and that's how you go broke during the bear, and you don't even know how it happened. But like you said, if you can find some breadcrumbs and look at fundamentals and kind of tap into, we sent guys, my fund sent guys out to Singapore, and they picked up a buzz around the whole VC circles about how everyone's excited about decentralized social. Literally a week later, I think Nader talked at the Masari mainnet, and then 2 weeks later, there's a massive buy volume. So there is ways to pick this buzz up, and we share a lot of techniques and ideas on the show. Not picks, right? Let's not get it twisted, guys. It's not a show for come and get your next 100x in a week.
No.
That's that scummy stuff that'll get you in trouble. And by you in trouble, I mean viewers in trouble. Don't do that. But the techniques and ideas, I you watch a lot of the order flow on Coinbase. Always appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget about the hash ribbons. My good old friend Hash Ribbon puts out buy signals every once in a while. This is the 3-day.
Please tell me it did. Please tell me it's going to put one in.
Oh, it put one in August, dude.
Okay.
Now, it didn't do one on the weekly, which is weird to me. The weekly is typically what I look at. And so maybe somebody who's smarter than me could explain this. So you get, let's zoom in. Let's have a little moment here to talk hash ribbons, because this is a big signal. And usually, you get the minor capitulation, and then when it crosses back to positive, between whatever moving averages those are, you get the buy signal. You get the buy signal, you get the buy signal, buy. Now, for some reason on this weekly, we got the capitulation, and then it crossed back bullish, and we didn't get the buy signal. But on the daily and the 3-day, you got what you would expect to see. So I'm like, is that an error? Was there something going on? And the weekly's just being an asshole. But even on the daily, and I'm pretty sure if I look at it, it actually just kind of gives it might not matter. I might be a real noob sound here, and I'm just like, there's more actually on the weekly. Anyways, let's go to the 3-day and just look historically. Because like you said, could it go here? Could it go there before? But will we look back at this 20K range and say man, sub 20K, anything was historically, will we look back at that? Well, last sort of bear, we got no buy signals all the way down until that bottom range. Midway through the bear, then the COVID shock kind of came into the market. Call that an anomaly. A lot of people think that was an anomaly. Who knows? But then you had another buy signal here. You had another buy signal here. There was a total of 3 buy signals in what really looks like the accumulation range for Bitcoin prior to the next bull. Then midway, right at 20K, you got another juicy little signal. And then, and then during that sort of bear market last year, 2021. We had that sort of mid-year dip, and that got a buy signal just before rallying for 4 months. So, yeah, we just got one. We got one in August, and so I just want to make sure I don't lose track of that because I was very excited on the day. Price has not moved. In fact, it's a little lower now than when I got it. So is that the first time in history that Hxro fires a buy in a range and that doesn't end up being a decent buy? We'll see.
I don't know. Go back a little bit. I'm trying to find one on your little chart here that ran in your face.
That sucked.
I think I see.
Yeah,
a little.
There's like two. Oh, so this is the ones I
Even
just
closer.
analyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to go in. We got to go into like the 2013, 2014.
Oh, that's kind of.
Yeah, like this one kind of sucked. It was on a big rally. It fired a buy signal, and then it went sideways for 7 months back in 2012.
So that was after a rally.
Oh, you would have been screwed buying Bitcoin at $6, but like in the short midterm, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well,
halfway
that's
up.
just noise. Yeah, I don't even. I mean,
This is noise, right? So you're saying like on a level basis, this was pretty good. I mean, it never went below this level, even though it was midway up the rally. Post capitulation 2015, you got a buy signal a few weeks later. You got like 3 through this trough, all same kind of range. Again, zooming in, that would probably be a really volatile range. It would seem like, oh no, up, down. But again, this is a high time frame indicator. And then here again, same thing, kind of post capitulation, mid 2016. There's like a little dunk, whatever that was, probably something news driven shit. And then, and then here,
China banning Bitcoin, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, this thing really doesn't. And it's cool. I couldn't tell you the exact, how they calculate it, but because it is based on hash rate, it really does kind of, grab the market by the balls as far as like really tracking what's going on fundamentally. Something about miners turning off their machines and then finally turning them back on, and that's like your buy signal. It's like the greatest sort of fundamental indicator you could have for something like Bitcoin, possibly. And it's pretty much a dunk.
Interesting.
For
Hash rate is increasing. I mean, I just
All-time
read
highs,
a bunch of these new machines came on. I mean, I think is it gonna squeeze some of the fringe miners who maybe don't have as good of pricing on their power and
that's what I heard.
As good of machines.
Wouldn't this be a sweet little wedge? Little wedgie.
God.
Just like pop out the other side, chill for another few months, and then bam. Wouldn't that be fun? So, all that to say, I am definitely holding a bag of cash for this dump because I feel like it needs to come. It just feels right. But I am not losing sight of the higher time frame kind of potential of all this stuff and loading up here a little bit too. Not today, unfortunately. Did not buy anything on that dip, but through 19K. Through the 19K area, because the other thing is like, and who knows, right? There's, as I say these things, I like hear people like, well, what about the Fed? They haven't pivoted yet. Like, I don't fucking know. I just look at the historical ebb and flow of crypto, and I think this is one of my better buying opportunities. And if we puke out, and it gets real nasty, like I see that as the final phase. Whether it's long, boring, sideways, macro, blah, blah, blah for 5-10 years. Okay. But it's got to be the despair down here. And then it's like, okay, and then I'll deploy the rest. So, and then we sell the kidneys.
I hope it doesn't happen.
No.
I
really do.
Imagine the smell.
Yes. I secretly, in like a kind of fuck you way, like I don't want it to happen so that all these, bears at support here are just like sitting there like, oh, I'm in cash and I'll wait for the Fed. Like they have it all figured out and, and they're just rubbing it in your face when you're short-term wrong. And I kind of hope they just never get filled. I mean, the other thing is like, when it goes to 12, they'll be waiting on 8. So the types of people who are, I'm going to buy at 40 and I'm going to buy at 20 who are now not buying, they're not going to buy at 12 either. But yeah, for the smell, I'd like to just see us not break these lows if, other than like, maybe a little sweep.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Personally,
who knows?
I don't see how we should be losing value against these fiat shit coins right now. I really, really don't.
Well, look at the Dixie today. That's
don't.
really promising. Maybe
Yeah.
we should talk Dixie. I know you don't buy into the Kool-Aid of Dixie has to be inverse Bitcoin, but
No, I mean
the world likes the narrative.
it doesn't have to be. It
Well,
doesn't have to be, but you know, it just shows the to me, the Dixie just displays like the policy discrepancy globally. You know, if for a while the U.S. was first to really say they're going to try to tame inflation and first to start raising, and meanwhile, like, you know, Europe, everyone else still zero, like Japan. So, I mean, it makes sense that the dollar would rally against the others, but you know, if I'm sitting in all these other currencies, Bitcoin's looking really good to me because I don't have much faith in what my sovereign bank leaders can do or will do. So,
yeah. No,
I don't know.
I hear you. Look, this is the way I see it. You know, this is how people feel right now, is it will navigate this level and it'll just be up forever and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, Dixie to 200. There are levels up there. There is a world, you know, from 1985 where the Dixie could play into these levels, like as far as my TA goes. But here's the level I've been watching. It's the most important one to date, and that is this big M-top breakdown level that marked the breakdown point from basically 2001. I guess that would be like NASDAQ popping. Anyways, so here we are. We're up against that level. This is a monthly. Let's zoom in. And so as we came into that level and dunked, and that was the little rally we had up to, you know, 20,000 last week. And so they really are inverse right now. It feels like Bitcoin is just waiting for this thing to chill. And if it does, you know, there's a stepping in. So naturally, I am watching this level as we reapproach those highs. And this is what you want to see. If you're me and you're watching this and you want it to break down, this is good for today. And that is, you know, kind of sweep these highs, fake out the breakout, and tank. And if there was going to be a high time frame reversal, this is what the start of it would look like the way I trade. So we'll just say that's our hopium for today with, you know, with this kind of, what was the trend line that we touched today? So Bitcoin just kind of flipped a trend line. The Dixie might be rolling around, might be rolling over, and that's the best you get today for hopium on as far as like when.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
It's yeah. It doesn't, there's just it's still that overhanging uncertainty and like really dark gray clouds globally right now. At least I feel it. I mean, Russia and Ukraine is an absolute fucking debacle. That's just, it's a shame all over.
It's not good.
It is just an absolute shame. And you know, who knows what Putin's going to do over there. You know, you never will know what really is going on over there, if he's liked or not liked or what's going on in his inner circle. And then you got the same kind of stuff like in China. And there's that question about, you know, is this even a proxy situation with China and then Taiwan and
North Korea?
China's growing at its slowest rate in years. I mean, years and years. And China's got some issues, like I think real issues. And, you know, this morning there was a protest by somebody and who was basically saying that they are living kind of like slaves and they want food, not COVID tests. And I don't know if you saw that, but it was kind of a big
Is that in China?
deal there. Yeah, that was in Beijing. It's right before the big Communist Party, like 5-year meeting or 3-year meeting or whatever. And someone hung, I don't know how they did it, but they hung a couple of signs that got them in some really big trouble. But, you know, everything's not that smooth over there either. No. So just geopolitically, globally, doesn't feel great. I don't know. I personally, like, knee jerk, is that negative for markets? Well, yeah, it's been negative. This market has been, you know, complete dog shit, and people have been de-risking, but there's still an absolute ton of cash out there. People a lot of people did really, 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 really well over the last 15 years, 10 years, in this whole stretch. So in the end, I'm not singing the bear tune. I think that there's going to be some real buying opportunities of real good stuff, but I don't have a warm and fuzzy feeling about what's going on.
It's not supposed to feel good, right? The bear market, for whatever reason, you always think to yourself at the highs, like, how are they going to convince me to sell this shit down here? Like, who's ever going to, Bitcoin's going to the moon. It's out of the cat's out of the bag. There's got to be some really gross shit going on to play out the bear, whether that was regulators and, China banned Bitcoin through the last bear, like whatever. This one, somebody in the chat, let's go to the chat. Let's say hi to some guys. We got Kevin, we got Vibes, we got Have a Hey and L saying, yo, sorry to take so long to check in with you guys. We're just, we're just schmoozing today. One person said, what did they say? Basically, BNY Mellon was the name of the bank.
So Bank
First
of New York.
Yeah, First Industries, way early in the show, he says, I think we need a Fed pivot before any real turnaround happens. And that's reasonable. That's the most reasonable assessment, basically saying that the Fed is causing this by raising rates. We need them to stop doing that. And
what is the pivot? So he's calling for the actual pivot, or to me, it's the sign that they might pivot. It's like, do you need to wait for the actual pivot, or you wait for them to say, "Oy, things are"? That
was going to be my thought. Is like by the time the pivot is in and it's all agreed upon, it's like looking back at the bottom and saying, "See, that was the bottom." You can't really do it in real time, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with waiting on weekly trends to emerge, and you're going to miss the bottom 30% or more, but you're going to be on a trend, and you'll probably feel a lot better. So that's one way to do it. That's probably the safest way to do it. Like, oh man, we're up only again. Let's go. And then how do you decide when you declare that? That's a trick in itself. Godfather, on the other hand, says, like, just DCA all the time. And if you have income and there's your cash flow and you're pretty conservative with it and you have patience and your time frame is insanely high, and you got 3 to 5 years to wait, that's really good strategy. Just DCA all the time.
Yeah. I'm like a broken record, but I do believe that the thesis for sound money, sound money, decentralized, non-sovereign currency, the thesis for that has never been stronger. I mean, this is the only thing that, like, it just keeps, every time someone asks me, how are you doing in that Bitcoin thing? You still a believer? I'm like, more than ever. It's proving out before our eyes. Like, the thesis is proving out before our eyes. I don't care that some weak-handed people had to dump it. The thing's going to be way higher than we can imagine in the future. So to me, the thesis overall, geopolitically, central bank-wise, everything we're watching play out, the central bank guys like Paul, I don't even know. This has baffled me. Everyone, I don't know. There's some people who are pounding the table. Of course we knew. You guys fucking did QE infinity for 12 years. You think there's not going to be inflation then? But the fact that the actual inflation started right around even COVID, when they were trying to patch up this major kind of depressionary sort of event globally. So was that the little catalyst that made all the previous easing spark the inflation? That's where they can't really get it. They can't get it just in general, but then you throw in this wild card of the COVID, and then the reaction to COVID, and then everything about it. It's like they don't fucking know, and they don't know. I believe that they're doing their best, but I think that plays right into mathematical sound money. And, so everything about, to me, that what Bitcoin was created for is it's proving out before our eyes. So the thesis is it's rock solid.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And being able to hold on to a thesis like that in the face of evidence to the contrary, like price going down, for example, which is not really evidence. I mean, that doesn't invalidate a thesis. It simply says it's a high time frame thesis, needs time to play out. But sticking to your conviction is a skill or a talent. But it's it's hard, man. It's hard. So
markets are not going to go along with your thesis all the time. There is no one who there just doesn't have. There's too many variables, too many factors out there, and there's winners and losers. There's some people who might have sold their Bitcoin at 30,000 and said, I'm done with this, and now it's 19, and they're like, look, that was a great sale. And if they buy it back, great. If they don't, and it goes to 100,000, then was their sale at 30 a good sale? Not anymore.
Not anymore.
There's so many different, yeah.
There's
so many different like variables and time frames that, it's price is not the only validator of the thesis. It really depends on how long. If you were buying it in November of last year for a 1-year trade, guess what? You got fucking smoked, right? It's not the time frame, right?
It wasn't the right time frame. That would be the worst time frame.
If it was a 1-year trade, but who was saying like 1 year,
from these highs in 1 year I'll sell. It would have been a very uneducated play given the cycles basically playing out to a T thus far. And look, you mentioned that your thesis doesn't always get reflected in price right away, and I think that's really where the opportunity lies. I don't want if I think Bitcoin right now has a future value or should be valued at 100K, 200K, 500K, 2 million, then I'm really happy that I see that before it's been priced in. That's really where the opportunity comes in. If you think electric cars are the future and you spotted Tesla at $60, whatever it was, then great for you. Your thesis has been playing out for 10 years. It's going pretty well. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And that's actually why I love hanging out with you, because no matter how nasty the midterm gets, you just kind of remind me like, hey, but we're not here to cash out in 2022, after a great bull market. Like, we're here to build, and we're here to grow, and we're here to place and stake and take positions. And look at that. Everything is playing out around us the way it was meant to be. That really, like, a lot of this, Bank of England kind of capitulating, going back to QE. Look at this. Anyways, so I don't know. It's
no, you're right. Like, what would it be more bullish or bearish for Bitcoin if like literally everything in the world and the central banks were like totally in control of everything? They were hunky dory. This shit's we got it covered from every step of the way here. We're good. Like, you wouldn't necessarily need Bitcoin then. If anyone can move their money at will 24/7 and it's all easy peasy, then you wouldn't, that'd be bearish. What we're watching happen, I mean, to me, it just could not be more long-term bullish.
Well, and then you get these little news clips, right? Like, what is it? I already forgot again. The melons. Yesterday was a nice BNY melon. At a senator, there's a clip that I tweeted out the other day, retweeted, of like a senator basically chatting about Bitcoin, basically like, I'm glad there is Bitcoin. I'm glad that there's something like this. There's a female senator, I forget her name, but she was basically touting it, saying, like, thank fuck Bitcoin exists. Like, thank God there is another potential monetary backing that we could rely on in the face of all this uncertainty and inflation and potential pension fund collapses, Bank of England. Like, thank goodness there is something that might present something that resembles a smooth transition to a new gold standard. Like, if we are going to go there, you can't go there if it doesn't exist. So there's a lot more going on this year fundamentally. And let's be honest. This bear market in crypto is playing out exactly the way it would have, 2018, 2019, like the 4-year cycle, nothing is amiss. People say, oh, it's the macro, it's this, it's that. Bitcoin was pretty much pre-programmed to go down 80%, was it not? Like high, too low. Like, did we really think we broke that system?
Yeah.
And so
just tell me when the next one, tell me to sell next time. Tell me when the next
Well,
time.
Look, we did talk a lot about, Messi and I were on here, not calling tops, not blah, blah, but being like, get your shit together. Like, have your tax money. Yeah. Don't buy into new things into the December, January, like through a 4-year cycle. A lot of us have the hopium that this time it's different, and I'm guilty of that. But I mean, I cashed out. I secured the bag,
Yeah.
and I kept a little less at risk.
Yeah.
Still a monstrous drawdown.
Well,
But
I think that's where
this is the way the Bears play out
charts.
historically.
I think that's where on long-term technicals, like you really pay mind to the long-term technicals. There's a lot of talk about technicals, and I think who was it? Caroline from Alameda said, technicals are there to kind of, when you're really a liquidity provider, market maker, it's a tool for attacking people looking at technicals. But on the long term, when you look at M's and W's and you're like, this shit is showing a long-term toppiness to me, I shouldn't be in it. Even if I have a long-term bag, then I should sell something else. Like, if it's sell a future or whatever. But
oh yeah, you can always look back. Yeah, there was. I mean, look at this GAN. First of all, this is just for fun. I drew this off the low to the mid 2019 rally, and it spits out this big extrapolation based on vibrations of the universe. I don't know. WD-GAM's a wild man. But look how that marked the highs. That was crazy. Now, I looked at it during this, and I was like, that's crazy. We're breaking out. But, looking back, coming into this arc, getting rejected, bouncing off this mid-horizontal, back up to the horizontal. This thing's been going crazy as far as, the vibrations of this market. And now we're just riding down this arc. So, at some point, stands to reason we will ride along some of these trends and start a new one. We'll have to make a whole new thing. But in the meantime, look at this. I think there's a real chance that this squiggly gets another shake. Look at this candle. It's moving right now. This daily candle is shaping up to be incredibly strong because when you have every excuse in the world to break down and you fail to, and not only that, you then recover. And if this closes green in 7 hours, it doesn't mean new bull market, but it certainly, to me, gives a nod to this range going back up to range highs. And then you got to ask yourself, what range, RT? Range highs up here? Until the
European market opens and they just fucking smash it again.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? And this is a hard signal to trade. Again, I don't think there's any need to. I picked up what I picked up at 19, basically break even now, my Bitcoin. The latest bag anyways. But yeah, I'd love to see this kind of thing play. I actually don't put any stock in the rest of this, so relax, everybody. But as far as meandering along here, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'd be surprised if everyone who shorted the lows here gets paid in profit. But can I get a squeeze up to here? I actually really like the idea of shorting up here. Again, as a trader, am I short Bitcoin for the next 5 years? Hell no. But I like the idea of this kind of, squeeze up over the next few weeks, days, whatever. And then can I look for some hedging shorts up there? That's probably my next midterm kind of swing that I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well,
I've got enough long exposure in this space. I don't necessarily need to race to buy this dip today.
I will tell you that the markets are illiquid, so it's just got to be open to any sort of move.
It's going to be really obvious in retrospect if we came through this high time frame downtrend, which is what this is, right? So you just take the highs. This is one that was coming up a lot last week. Take the high wick, extrapolate, and we've just moved through it. Absolutely no follow-up, right? And if you go in a lower time frame, there was kind of a reason for that. I think it's a little easier to see on the CME, but basically, yeah, right there. So let's just see here. Yeah. It got smacked down by this trend line, but either way, if we break through it, come down, tag it today, which we did quite beautifully, close bullish, and then move on. Looking back, it's gonna be like, oh man, I should have tried to long that. We'll see what's obvious in the next year. I think Bitcoin sub 20K being an obvious buy for the next 5 years is probably one of my favorite bets. And so the question for us is, what the hell do we talk about for the next 5 years while this all comes to fruition?
Dude, there's going to be so much to talk about, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So much good stuff to talk about. This this space is going to expand and grow, and we're so early.
I love Gunny's soundbite at the start in our show. It's just like, if you were sitting here watching the stream right now, you cannot overstate like how early you are to the curve. Like that's my
Will
favorite.
we be
That
saying
gets me
that
fired
20
up.
years from now?
Yeah, it's still early, guys. You know, Bitcoin 4 trillion market cap. We're still early. Yeah. It hasn't taken over the world yet. I mean, in many ways, you know, if it is this paradigm, this generational market emerging, then it's early for like 5 or 10 years. You know, if it's a 40-year, 50-year cycle, we're early, even in 2030. So we'll see. Let's take
still like if people like that I'll run into just out in public, like still in that Bitcoin thing, you're out of your mind. No, I don't understand what the hell it is. You guys are crazy.
I'll tell you what, my Facebook,
literally everybody.
Yeah, my Facebook gets 0 engagement on my Bitcoin. Like 3 people, like my brother, my cousin who's into crypto, and like everyone else is like, shut the fuck up. I don't care. You know, like I'm so sick. Like, but it drives me nuts because they're all like, a lot of people are struggling. They're struggling with their income not matching their rising costs, and it's this kind of, well, the government will save us. You know, the banks will save us, and for the first time in people's lives, well, they let's hope.
In their currency, but
let's hope, man.
The banks are gonna be there, but
I think it's time to really.
No.
Well, look at this.
But you need to own the other shit because they're gonna print more to save them. And
to save those assets, though, I'm thinking about like wage earning. You know, I have $2,000 savings. Like myself, prior to crypto, would have been underwater right now, deeply. And I'll give you the example I used a couple weeks ago because I went and bought 2 pairs of shoes, sweatshirt, sweatpants.
Mm-hmm.
I spent $600. This was at like Sport Check, you know, nothing crazy. Then looking back, high school, that was like $300. And in uni, 6-7 years ago, that probably cost me about $450. Now, the amount of Bitcoin that cost me was like 120 Bitcoin in 2014. It was like 0.02 Bitcoin. And now in 5 years, I go buy 2 pairs of shoes, sweatpants, sweatshirt. It's going to cost me more Canadian dollars than 660. That seems like a foregone conclusion.
Probably.
And it's going to, I think, cost me a lot less Bitcoin than 0.025, which is what I had to spend. So based purely on that, I went, and then the Bank of England thing, and then I went and I was like, fuck it, I need Bitcoin in my portfolio right now. Like, not even as a trade. Just, I need to have that, preserving that buying power. Because that really hit me when I went in. It was like $666.69. I'll tell you that. I had a good laugh.
Well,
the
I'll
guy
tell
at the
you
cash
what.
didn't get it, but anyways.
What I would really like, and I don't have it right now because I haven't been in this mode, but I'd like to, and if anyone watching has any tips or whatever, but for everybody who always says, no, Bitcoin, I don't understand it, and I don't touch anything I don't understand. I want to have one link I can send them. Right there and say, you know what? Read this for a minute, watch this for a minute, and you'll understand it. Like, what is that best, like, 1 minute thing or 5 minute thing? You know, one thing where
the universal resource. There still isn't
they
one.
can say, I don't know. I
mean,
can't.
there's a bunch. There's just not one.
I have to go back in my messages and look through. What did I send to that so-and-so that, you know, a year ago when they asked for one thing? Like, what am I, you know, it used to be like an Andreas Antonopoulos video.
Well,
right?
the Death of Money interview, but it's 2 hours long. Nobody wants to watch it. But
but like what couple minute thing from him or from somebody, you know, Jack Mallers had a pretty good one a few months ago that I thought was a good little clip during an interview. I'm going to try to scrounge that one up, but if anyone else has anything,
let's put our heads together because I think that's a win for everybody if we could find, first of all, because then you don't have to sit and explain it to 100 different people over time. I hate doing that. I don't do that anymore. People are like, let me ask you about Bitcoin. I'm like, no, like go to this resource because it just, it feels like sunk cost, like sunk energy, wasted energy. Now, Coach in the chat just pointed out, some people just won't get into it no matter how hard you try. And I don't want to try to get people into it. I want to open the door for them, turn on the light for them, and then like let them decide if they want it. The last thing I want to do is like convince somebody to put their hard-earned money at risk in the market, because that's what they're doing. Even if price goes up, they could fuck it up. I know somebody who bought some and put it on a ledger and left their password book for one day. Apparently they just stuffed it into this drawer with the ledger, and then their house got robbed. Person didn't even know about their crypto, stole their ledger. Anyways, basically they lost their crypto. The guy didn't even steal it. They like threw out, the shit's still sitting in the wallet, but they can't access their ledger. So they lost everything, even though number go up if it goes up. So there's 100 ways to lose. So I'm not going to convince anyone, but it'd be nice to have a resource that was just easy to understand, short, digestible, and powerful.
Yeah. Undeniable, like, don't tell me you don't understand it in its rawest form after you kind of read this or listen to this.
And a lot of it comes down to trust and risk appetite. And as Coach pointed out, some people just won't get into it. There's a lot of people who, I think early in my days, I did a lot of talking, and I was trying to convince myself probably half the way. And I spoke to people, and there's just a lot of people that are risk averse. They don't want to risk what they have, and they don't trust it enough or know enough. And that's fine. But, then they turn around and some of those same people will, wow, that's so lucky you got in there. And I'm like, well, it took a lot of risk. I took a lot of risk. Most billionaires, that I am not, of course, but most billionaires at some point or other went all in, went bankrupt 2 or 3 times, took out massive loans to fund their ideas. A lot of fortunes start with big risk. And so,
but there also are people taking risks that they might not even know that they're taking. I mean, many people have their 401ks, their retirement stock plans, and look at Facebook, the stock. Facebook company, love it or hate it, they made a shit ton of money. That stock's down like 70% peak to trough right now.
But it's a safe, regulated
investment.
Like
people who own, I know, but people who own stock stuff, there is risk. You have risk. People might not necessarily, even understand like the risk that you just explained. It was your clothing in Bitcoin terms,
that's what hit me.
It's hard.
I had a moment.
Hard to quote the clothing BTC pair.
And that's, Well, I think my thing is that I just get stuck in the weeds so much looking at 5 and 15 and 2 hour, like looking in short time frame Bitcoin movements. And so that day it hit me. I just went like, year over year, my Canadian dollars suck. And like Bitcoin's really fucking powerful. So like the rest is noise, and I just needed to have some. But this is like the market putting people to sleep at the wheel, right? If you are... Now this is just Facebook back to 2012, but a lot of the market looks like this back to 2001 or 2001. You just go to the S&P, and so there's this idea that if you just buy dips and if you just keep adding to positions, there's no risk because it always goes up. And that always just makes me nervous, when brokers talk to you. They're like, just throw it in the index and you can assume 5.5% every year over year. And I'm like,
well,
until it doesn't.
It depends on growth. No, it's growth. I mean, the S&P is supposed to track the 500, top companies in the U.S. So if the U.S. economy is going on and we have innovation and we've got business and economic growth, then technically, the index, which tracks the value of these 500 top companies, should go up. In general, we've seen global economic growth over the years. So that kind of does make sense to me. But I will tell you, along with that growth, and we've got 2% inflation, 4% inflation, if you have an asset like Bitcoin, it's got 2 more years of 1.8% inflation, and then 4 years of 0.9% inflation, eventually math should do its work there, and it will appreciate in dollar terms, not even counting the technical innovation and what it serves for borderless, permissionless, non-sovereign stuff. So, I mean, at the end, the index is growing with,
Yeah, no, you're right. It's not total Fugazi, right? It does represent the growth in the system. And I think the Fugazi comes in when you add money supply and inflation, and it gets like kind of sidewaysy looking. But sorry, while you were talking, I had a moment because I put this chaos PRZ just out of curiosity from this whole thing. And it almost pipped the top. At first it did, but then I had to redraw it on the wicks. But yeah, if you drew it off improperly, it basically, chaos is freaky. Anyways. It was all meant to be. Technicals called it. Okay, so let's
say... Does chaos
work
on the downside?
It does work on the downside, actually. It's harder to draw. I find it's a little more like guesswork, but it actually, a lot of times, I have an atom chart. I don't know if it's still on here, but yeah, man, it was cool. Perfecto. It was the one time... I think I actually did it in the video. If you guys look up the Chaos PRZ video we did, that thing, it was an old Atom chart. Anyways, and like on top of a few other levels, I did like a reverse PRZ and it like pipped it and went, and it was just fun. Okay, as we wrap up today, we're getting to the top of the hour, past the top of the hour. Big, fat, bullish daily candle on the SPX. Gotta love it. It's engulfing the last 3 days. Me being a technician thinks like when we lose these lows, it's lights out. Well, it could just be this like really slow, shitty bleed out. I don't know. What are your final thoughts today? I got nothing. I feel like, we've kind of said all the things that I had to say today. Looking at Bitcoin, really strong candle today so far. Responding anyways.
Yeah.
Certainly not a lose your lows lunch on the CPI print, although it felt like it for an hour there this morning.
Yeah. It feels like we're in the dumpster, and feels like there's some dumpster diving to be done.
Nice alliteration there. I like that.
If you don't mind crawling around in the fucking shit. But
I don't.
Because everything's things have been dumped. Doesn't mean they're not, dumping more, right? And but we've achieved sell-off that it wouldn't be shocking if we were in the vicinity of
value
lows. Of value. I believe there is some value to be had out there. I really, really do. But it's you're gonna have to do some work. And you're
gonna have to lift your finger.
Get into the chats, get into the community, get into the discords, get into everywhere. Join us in Heroes Discord. I love it. It's great.
I've been seeing you in there more too. I love seeing that. You and Gunny.
I mean,
the homies are in.
It's always good. You don't want to be in your own little bubble of like, it's like, you're living in the monkey house too long. You can't even tell that it smells like crap anymore. It's like you've been living in there forever. You got to get out and get look at what other people's ideas are and where's activity? Where's action? Where's excitement? Who's excited about what? Yeah.
Well, developing a thesis too. How you think blockchain technology will proliferate through the next 10 years. How do you think it solves real world problems? What are the best applications? We've seen it applied to everything now, right? Like healthcare records and supply chains and fund transfers and banking and DeFi. Like, what do you think it really solves? And coming up with a thesis and then finding a way to express that. There's a lot of work that can be done. A lot of it is introspection, reflection, analysis. Anyways, we're going to keep sharing our takes. We're going to get Messi on here someday, maybe when his daughter graduates high school. And we'll get him back in action here, and we'll start sharing a little bit more of that stuff too. Because it's easy to just sit here and say all the things we should do. Like, well, let's do it. Let's dive into some of our own practices. I know you spotted DeSo at the lows. I think that was a great trade in positioning. I've got some itching to do here. I got a scratch I need to itch here with some research over the next few weeks, so we'll get into it. Yeah. In the meantime, I've got to get going and play dad for the next few hours. Right. I'm going to go out Gonna go outside. Gonna go touch some grass.
Always good seeing you, buddy.
Yeah, you too, brother. Been a pleasure. And for you guys in the chat hanging out, grinding through the bear market with us, thank you. Appreciate you. See you out there. And we'll be back Tuesday with Network Effect. All about Hxro Network and the good stuff over there. All right.
All right.
So from now until then, whatever you do, always play from